What's up, you guys? I hope you guys like that little intro. I just jammed that out for you guys right now using this little loop maker session template thing that I made, and I'm going to give you guys a copy of this since I hit a certain number of subscribers on YouTube and a certain number of likes on Facebook, so it's kind of a give back to you guys for being so cool to me. And I'm going to show you guys kind of what I got going on here. So this is pretty much a template session I made for myself, which I use to generate loops. So this is kind of how I make loops from scratch. So things like this, kind of like deep house stuff, or you know, all sorts of things. So those are just some of the examples of, you know, some of the things you can make inside of this. This is just today's batch, really. I made all these earlier today, and it was really fun. You get really into it, and it's just fun to create loops because, you know, I can take any one of these loops and turn that into like an intro of a song, and sometimes you just need the right inspiration, and just making loops for yourself is a great way to just click on something that you've made and then kind of turning, you know, making a song around it. So it's really fun to do these kind of things. And you know, I'm in this folder called K-State Loops, so this is last week's batch. I made like 81 of these, or actually like that's more than 81, because there's like a 81A, 81B and things like that. So there's probably like maybe 160 in here, because some of these are doubled up. So, you know, here's a few from last week. So you got the idea. So this is my session. I'm going to give you guys my template session. So it's just going to be everything just like this, except, you know, without all the samples I made, because I'm going to, you know, sell that later on in a sample pack. So I'm going to maybe do like 1,000 genre loops, you know, for like $10 or something like that. And, you know, that's when I finish my web store anyway. So that's when I'll have tons of sample packs and presets and things like that for you guys. So anyway, let's just save this, and let me open up the template session that I'm going to give to you guys. So I made an extra copy for you guys to use. So this is what it looks like, and I'll show you guys how it all works. So let me quickly explain kind of how everything works. So everything in here is definitely necessary to making a loop from scratch, and there's quite a few steps, and it's very complex. This is probably one up there with some of the more complex tutorials I've done, so this is definitely a hard video to follow along, so I'm going to try my best to make it simple. So first things first, we have a pre-master, so everything in this session is routed to a pre-master. So you see that the group here, the vocoder stuff, is going to sends only, which is A. Everything inside that group is going to group, so you know, we don't have to route these to A because the group itself is going to A. And then these other tracks, they're going to sends only as well to A. So everything goes through the pre-master. And what the pre-master is just the way I like to control the different low end and mid end and all that stuff. And you know how I like to saturate and color my entire mix. So I like to process my loops through this, because it's going to get recorded. Our bounces track is going to record everything from the master, the pre-master. So let me kind of just show you some of what's going on in here. So I've shown you guys this before in other videos, so it's definitely nothing new here. So, you know, just the standard compressor, you know, multiband compressor splitting the frequencies that are pretty much making a low, mid, high to everything inside the session. So the lows are completely mono because I have a utility at 0%. The high is at like 150%. So those kind of things. So nothing new there. That's definitely part of some of my older videos, or at least some of my videos from 2014, where I start to show you guys these kind of things. So then I have saturator here just to add a little bit of warmth and saturation, not extreme settings, and the gain is brought down to like negative 5.5 dB. Little filter to cut out some of the very low end, and this limiter here is here just because I might use it, but I usually have it off so that way when I'm looking at my bounces, I can see that I'm not clipping in here and such. So if I have a limiter on here, that means I could be clipping here and I wouldn't even know it because the limiter would cap it. So I would hear it. I would definitely hear something being crunched down, but I wouldn't see it here. So I like to keep this off. And same everywhere else. So this, I have a limiter on here for YouTube reasons, but usually this is not here, non-existent on my session. So I'll now quickly explain what's going on here. So this kind of works in steps. So step 1, we bring in some audio, or we bounce some FM8 stuff or some massive stuff or some silent stuff. We just bounce whatever into this, or bring samples. Bring whatever you want. Just bring in audio form, and we're going to manipulate it up here. So up here you see I have quite a few effects units like Guitar Rig or Effectrix or Fracture. These are just some of the plugins that I've added in here. You can, if you have things like what's the one from, well, there's tons of plugins that are just meant to kind of modulate and be effects units. So if you have things like Finger, or I'm trying to think of other things I don't have, I don't know, there's plenty of those. So you can add whatever you want here. So what the idea of this up here, this step 1, is to kind of bring in some new stuff, modulate it, make it sound very interesting, and then we're gonna use that bounce version. So then when we're done with it, we're gonna bounce it down to bounces, and everything is routed. Everything that is heard in the session is bounced in here. So this is routed to the pre-master, so it's not routed to like a specific step 1 or vocode mod. It's everything that's heard is bounced into this, so that's really convenient for me. So this track right here is always armed. It's always record enabled. So when I hear something I like, I just press play and then record it. And I do a few passes of it because then we have to sync it to a marker. So I'll explain that later. So pretty much we'll create something cool up here. We'll bounce it down here. We'll bring it up into vocode mod. So this is step 2, and it's a series of vocoders, which I'll explain in a bit. And what we do with the vocoders is we have 2 vocoders. So each of these vocoders are routed to a different channel. So this is gain audio from step 1. This vocoder is gain audio from this voco mod. So it's the one underneath it. So basically, we have 2 different vocoders working, but they're not playing at the same time. There's an on and off switch for these. So one of these turns off, the other turns on. So it's just this whole inverted mapping thing. So I've routed these both to the same knob and then inverted the range on one of them, like you can see right here. So you just double click, invert, and that's how you do that. So we have these vocoders, and once we're done with those vocoders, we can then bounce that down here, and now down here. Now I have this track called Add Kick. So usually I'll have like a 4-to-floor beat type of kick right here, and I'll have several of them. So I'll have like different tuned kicks, different styles of kicks, like hard style kicks, short kicks, long kicks, all sorts of kicks. So I have some variation on the type of kicks I can add to the loop. So once I have something I like up here, I can add a kick down here with it because it's being played along. So you see everything is off in this track. So these are off, this is off. The only thing that's on is the vocoder and the add kick. And usually I create 2 variations of a loop. So there's one loop that has no kick in it, and then another the same loop but with the kick in it. So then that's why I have these 2 audio tracks. So this is where everything gets bounced down to, and then I push it back and store it later on over here. So it's all quite simple. So it's just step 1, step 2, and then add a kick, step 3 if you want, and then bounce it, and you're done. So there's a lot of things going on each of these, but it's quite simple at the end of the day. So let's just make something. So I'm just gonna grab one of my samples that I made from last week. Or you could also grab stuff from the library, the Ableton library. If you have sample packs like Denmouse stuff, or if you go Loop Masters, quite often I buy stuff from there too. I like to play around with these things, but usually I like to synthesize these from scratch so that they're completely mine legally, and for other reasons I like to just make everything from scratch so I can sell them later on. So it's just good to completely own the product that you make and completely have ownership of it. So I like that feeling, and I like doing it because it's fun. So let's just grab a loop that I made, and I'll grab a Ableton loop as well. So, 2 examples at the same time. So I'll grab this loop here and put it right down here, and I'll explain these markers again. So actually I should explain these markers right now. So let me actually bring in a kick. So I'll go Case 8 samples. I'm already in my Case 8 kicks, so let me just grab a kick. Okay, so I like this one more. I'll add it to the kicks track. I'm gonna shorten this fade a bit, or make it sound the way I want, so I'll kind of do it like that. So make a selection, you click on a sample, press Command L around it, or Control L if you're in PC, and you can make a loop around it. So if I click on this, press Command L, it makes a loop. So it's kind of a quick way to make loops without having to go up here, drag it around, and all that annoying stuff, or doing the Command Shift stuff. That's takes a long time. I like to save time and know my quick keys. So let's listen to this. And of course I should probably turn on or unsolo whatever it is that's making me not hear this. Let's see, it's probably something in my pre-master. Oh, okay, I did something different here. Let me see. Seems like my computer is doing its voice commands. I must have clicked on the function key. There we go, it's back. It was just, I clicked on the Siri thing of my computer. Alright, so now that I like it, I have some options on how I want to consolidate this. I could just click on it, press Command J and consolidate it. Or I could freeze the track like this. Actually I can't, because I have some routing stuff that it's working with this. So in other cases, like if I bring it down here, I could freeze this track, then I can bring the sample out of there, and now I have that version of it here. And then I can just flan this down or unfreeze it. So when you flan something, whatever plugins you had there will be gone, it'll be wiped clean, you'll just have the audio version. Because when you flan something, it's like Ableton's making a quick little audio copy of that so that I can play it without using plugins to use CPU. So, that's how you can use flan to really quickly make, edits and things like that. Or you could just press Command J and consolidate it. So now let's make it a 4 to the floor type pattern. Consolidate that, and now I'll explain why I brought these kicks in, other than we'll be using them. But you see this marker, that is there for a reason. So let's record this. So I'm going to press spacebar because I don't like pressing record and waiting for the countdown. That was just seconds of my life gone, and I like to do things quickly. So I'll just press spacebar and then press record as it's playing. And when you're doing loop records like that, you let it go for a few passes so that you have enough audio at the beginning and end to kind of move around the sample, because we're going to need to. And you notice that right after I was done recording, now we have it split it where it stopped. So you press Command Z right away after you're done recording, and it now gives you one version of that. So you see that this is how off it is. So if we play these together, that's just a delay compensation thing. That's a record delay. It's because there's processing and things like that. So Ableton does that. So what I like to do is I like to start off with kicks, usually something maybe percussive, like a little cowbell, something that has a very sharp beginning transient. So, now we zoom way in and we see where the beginning of this is. So you just, let's see, I zoomed out. So we go like 1/4096, something like that. And we go to the beginning of this. So you only have to do this once. So thank God you don't have to keep doing it over and over. So we're going to find the beginning of this sample. There it is. So I like to just put it at the 0 starting point. So that means when the waveform is kind of at the 0 starting point. So it looks like it kind of gets a start up here, but putting the marker there is not wrong either. It's close enough. At this level, this zoom, it's very much close enough. So I like to just, instead of doing this a million times because I make hundreds of loops a week, this would be super annoying. It would kill my production time, or the amount of like loops I could produce in a week if I had to do this every friggin' time. So I set a marker right there. Just, go here, click on set, and it places a marker there. So now I can zoom out, not even have to look at it twice, and I can just snap the beginning to this, move it over like that, and now it's perfectly in sync. So now if I play these two together, it's in sync. So, it's good to do this in any session where you have recordings and you have a dedicated bounce audio track. So that's why I have these markers here in the session. So you see these markers that are kind of slightly off. They're not perfectly to the grid. You see that this is kind of like off the grid. That's just, you want to set that up so you don't have to keep zooming in every time you record something, because that would just totally kill my workflow. So let's just get rid of this. Let's put this where I would really have it. And now let's just make something cool. So I think I deleted some of the stuff I was working on. So we're gonna make this loop, interesting. We're gonna start. So now I officially am starting the sound design process. So I'm gonna turn on this rack, which usually is off because once we get to step 2, I turn this off and use this lane as a vocoder send. So I'm not using it now, so I'm just using it to make this sound crazy. So. And, if you want to suggest what should be next week's sound design video, comment below and, send a request. Because for now, I'm pretty much want to do it on Guitar Rig, because Guitar Rig is so interesting. There's so many components to it and things like that. But I have a setting that I really like. So it's called Effect, Animated, and you go to number 22. It's called Sing Along. I love this effect, or this little effect thing. So it's just pretty much... a nice little it kind of tunes to something and makes these wah-wahs and intensities that match your sample, so it's really cool. Let me turn off Fracture. So again, you can bring in whatever you want here. I prefer Guitar Rig in this case. So, the point of all this is just to kind of make something different. So last week's Sound Design Wednesday's video was all about Fracture and how I use it to kind of make these kind of interesting sounds. So this, if you want to see me fool around with Fracture and really do step 1 for half an hour, you go to that last week's video. So I'm just going to kind of do this kind of quickly and just go ahead and skip forward. So I'm going to bounce this now. So I can unsolo it. There's nothing else playing. So whatever is playing in the session will get bounced into this. So let's just solo that. And now let's snap it to this so it's in the proper timing. And now let's bring it up here. Actually, let's bring it up here. And let's turn off this rack so we can A/B what I did to it. Now I'm going to use both of these, so I'm going to duplicate it so I have the originals saved here. I'm going to use both of these to kind of create a new rhythmic thing, so I'm going to start chopping this up. So I like how the clap sounds like that. I'll bring that down. Let me zoom in a bit more. I like this space right here, so I'll drag that down. And let's go back to the original. So let's bring that there, put this down here. So let's kind of get a listen to this. Let's turn off everything in the rack. Play the kick along with it. And you know, we can also use the kick as a part of this, so we can bring this kick in, we can click on it, unwarp it, so we can when you have warp off, you affect the pitch and the length of the sample, and when warp is on, you only affect the pitch of it and not the length of it. So as you see, I can turn this up, this sample stays at the same length, but the pitch has gone up. So now if I turn off warp, I can now make this sample shorter by bringing up the pitch, or longer by bringing it down. So now let's just kind of bring it, let's make it really short. So let me get into 132 grid so I can kind of, whoops, wrong command. Command 1 and 2 again to make the grid smaller, bigger. So let's go to that. And now let's make this smaller. Alright, so I like that, so I'll just quickly consolidate it. So that way I can now rewarp it. So now warp is automatically on again, and now I can bring the transposition up without affecting the length. Alright, so now let's kind of do stuff like this. And these are a bit loud, so you know I can also go back to here. We can go to volume, or let's see, the clip. I remember it used to be here. If not, where the fuck is the gain for this? Okay, here. So now we're making this quieter. So now that we can kind of keep doing things. Now, if this sounds annoying now, it's going to sound cooler later on. So let's consolidate this. So now we can take things out of it if we want still. So now let's bring this kick into this. Or let's get a different kick. Alright, that's an okay kick. Let's duplicate it again. consolidate. Actually, let me see that's in the right timing, since it's not exactly matching this BPM. So now we can check this kick. Now let's turn on the vocoder. So now the dry wet is all the way up. Now we can turn on the second reverb unit. So this right here is either on and off depending on here. So if it's on this side, it's on. If it's this side, it's off. So now you can see it's all grayed out, so it's off. So let's leave it on. Then we have the envelope depth and release times and all that stuff mapped. So pretty much both of these vocoders, all the parameters are on the same settings, but I can now A/B it by turning one on and off. So it's really useful to have it like that. And again, sensitivity adds like a little white noise in the empty parts of the clips. So you can use the sensitivity to make it sound like white, hi-hats. And if you bring it all the way down, then you have nothing. So I like to bring down the unvoiced to like 20 dB, negative 20 dB, because it's white noise and it's kind of loud. So you can bring down the dry wet a bit to have a little bit of the original sample in there. And it's fun to play around with this, so I can also bring this down to here and like this, like that. But you mess around with this. This is a session where you just mess around and come up with things. Of course, if you affect either one of these samples, you get something completely different. So let's mess around with this one. Let's do something. Let's go. Let's make it offset. And you gotta be conscious of pops and stuff. So use that fade tool. Okay, so let's do something like this. And we can see that I'm clipping here, so I need to bring down the gain on this, or this kick right here might be a little loud. It's definitely loud. So let's bring down the gain on that. Now let's bring the dry wet up on the vocoders. like I said, I like to have variations, so let's drag this here, and let's still keep this middle part of the vocoder the same. And since the settings are the same on the vocoder, on both vocoders, I can now A and B the same sample with the same settings, or different samples with the same settings. It really doesn't matter. So let's switch to the other vocoder. So now this vocoder is on, the one we were just listening to is off, and now we drag that same sample up here. So let's see what's going on. So you just saw that I recorded 2 passes of this, one with kick, one without kick, and now I'm syncing them both to the marker that I had there. So now they're both in sync with everything that was just being played, and now I can color and tell myself that these are in time and loops. So now I have the version of it without kick and the version of it with kick. And, you know, the first few loops you make in an empty session like this will sound kind of funny and whatever, but as soon as you start getting around to like making 10 or 20 of these, then you'll have cooler loops, and then you can throw those cooler loops back through the processing. So you could throw it back here and then redo all this stuff and make it sound different. And, you know, don't try the same things over and over. Keep changing and keep trying, and it's a really fun way to explore your plugin library as well, because you're going to end up using plugins you don't use very often or don't have any uses for anywhere else. Like I find a lot of like Echo Boy that makes it into this stuff, which is like a cool delay plugin, or a lot of like interesting plugins end up being used in these sessions. So I'm just giving you guys the bare minimum of things that are essential to this, and you can just add and add and add things. And you know, it's kind of like evolution. It just, the more time you spend with it, the more things you generate with it, the more things that you reprocess through it, and it's a really fun process. So hopefully you guys like this, and I'll go back to my other session so you can kind of see some of the work that I've ended up doing here. So I kind of shown you guys how it all works. I'm not gonna be able to generate any cool loops with the minimal samples there, but you can kind of see, you know, this is the exact same session, except, you know, I've been working in this session for like over 2 weeks, so you can get an idea of what this stuff sounds like. And by the way, you notice on the kick track I have different kicks, so you know, it's good to have different kicks for the loops and stuff. So if I solo this, you'll notice I have like hardstyle kicks in here, short kicks, long kicks, differently tuned long kicks, and you know, I had like 20 kicks in here, but I simplified it down to 5. And then, you know, once you get into the vocoder stuff, so if I unsolo this and, you know, play this, and again, all these loops and stuff, everything you see in this session is mine. I made these through the process I just showed you. I made all these samples, so you know, everything you hear in here is mine, down to the kicks. I've made all these kicks individually and then made little loops of these for this. So, you know, what you hear here is all mine. So if I bring the dry wet down, you know, that's what that sounds like. And now if I bring it back to where it was, so that's kind of where you can get to this. It takes maybe a while to get there, like a week of working inside the session, but you'll get there. And you know, then you can start making really cool like 8-bar loops, like, so you can have automation there like this. So you know, you get the idea. And let me show you the other session I was working in. It's the same session again, except, you know, different samples. So this other one was like from a month ago, or maybe something like that. So now you can see I have almost like 100 samples here. These have all been saved and exported. So when you're done with loops, you can also then rename them and then consolidate it, and then find it in your Finder or whatever. So you just double click on it, then you see where it is in your library, and then you can select the ones you want and carry that into a folder. So I created a folder on my computer called Kse Loops. So that's where all these have ended up. So this was last week's batch. So there's like 160 samples in here, and it's all these that you see in here. Again, it says 82 here, but most of these are doubled up. So it's like 2 82s or 4 64s, things like that. So there's definitely a lot going on here. Let's see what's going on here. So you probably noticed that bar 3 is where everything gets done. Let's see. So I guess that's where I left off. I guess I wasn't digging that one. That's why it's purple. I have different meaning for the colors. So, pinks and reds and yellows are kind of cool. Blacks and silvers and whites are different vibes, but still cool. Greens and blues are some of my favorites. And purple is like, meh, I don't really care for it. So, So I have many, sessions of these going on at the same time. So again, I'm going to give you guys this one. Also, it's kind of a give back since I hit like 4,000 likes on my Facebook, 2,100 subscribes on YouTube. So, it's been good, since I pretty much started doing this Kse thing on YouTube like 8 months ago. So it's really nice that it's been received warmly, and I'm glad for the support. So, thanks guys for watching, and I'll give you guys this session, and I'll kind of start you off with these samples that you see here. So, you get some of my kicks or you get one kick, one of my kick loops, some of this stuff. So this is good enough to start working with. So I'm actually going to probably start working on this inside of this, and maybe periodically I'll give you guys some free stuff and keep updating this Loop Maker session if you guys want. I've tried doing like other projects with you guys to get you guys more involved in making your own things. Like I did my Dropbox project for a while, and that didn't really go so well. So, maybe I'll start doing something different. So hopefully you guys like this, and thanks guys for watching.